Welcome to the Equipcast for the Archdiocese of Omaha. Designed to help leaders to transform their cultures, to embody the pastoral vision, to be one church, encountering Jesus, equipping disciples, and living mercy.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Equipcast. Happy Thanksgiving. We are very close here to the end of the year. And I have some news. We're going to be taking a break for the holidays. We've got today's podcast and maybe a couple other little teasers will drop over the holiday season. But then we're going to be back in January with our first guest in January. It's going to be Michael Gormley from the Every Knee Shall Bow podcast. You're going to love this guy. It's going to be a great conversation, and we want you to join into that. So thank you. Hope blessings on your celebrations. Please be safe and enjoy those. And thanks for tuning in. We're definitely grateful for you all and everything that you've done to just the conversation and sharing the podcast. Today we have I have a special guest here in the studio. It's actually just my office. Deacon Tim McNeil. He is the Chancellor here for the Archdiocese of Omaha. Deacon Tim, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we start this way with everybody. Tell us a little bit about your faith journey. Like, when did you first encounter Jesus?
I don't know. I mean, that's a question I've been asked. So I don't have a 3 o'clock hour. I don't have a 6 o'clock hour. So quickly, I'm one of 12 kids. So I grew up in that household where we had the Sacred Heart pictures. We had the holy water founts in our bedrooms. We had a rosary until we complained so much the family rosary got cut out.
You managed to kill the family rosary.
We did.
You personally, or was it a team effort?
It was a team effort. It was a gang up of mom and dad.
And you still turned out okay.
Yeah, I guess so. So it was Catholic education, daily mass during Lent, all 12 of us. We took, or 14 of us, my mom and dad. So we would take up 2 pews. So I guess that's a long way of saying it was a cultural Catholic environment.
Yeah.
Although my dad was a prayer. My dad lived on his knees. So I always felt like, well, I want what Dad wants. Dad's always peaceful. Dad never judges. Dad's so merciful. But that really, I guess, came to fruition maybe in my 20s or 30s. But if I had to say, if there was a seminal moment that life can be different and should be different and was being asked of me, it was probably an St. Ignatius moment where I was reading after my dad's death. I thought
you were going to say a cannonball.
Oh, no.
That's what I was waiting. I was like, wow, this is great.
Right. I got all of his books. And I remember opening up, just by chance, The Imitation of Christ. Reading The Imitation of Christ and experiencing there is something happening. And that led me to another popular book because there were so many references on Scripture in the Bible. That led me deeper into Scripture. And so I would say over time there was an erosion of who I was, an introduction of who I could be, starting with this little ancient book that was speaking to me.
And your dad's fingerprints were literally all over the book.
It was torn. And it led me to another book, bestseller, called the Bible.
Yeah. And
in time, I just felt like I was no longer. I had a book in my lap. I was cradling a person, and that kind of that began the transformation.
How old were you?
I would say I was in my 30s. So it was at that point where, this anxiety, this uneasiness of chasing the American dream. And I was being introduced and invited to something else.
Well, and you'd kind of gotten through the 20s when you're like, wait, I'm not invulnerable anymore. And all of that period.
Yeah, that life isn't about climbing a ladder, and especially when you have 5 kids running around your feet, and there's something else more important. So I guess that would be the encounter. Was a great foundation, great home life, encouragement. Go to mass or you'll be grounded, or all that. And
I think I misheard. It's like, going to mass will keep me grounded. It's like, oh sure. Oh no, I'm grounded if I don't go to mass. Just to make sure everybody heard that.
The Lord made sure to always give me these clues. I remember one time skipping mass. I happened to go to the store my dad would never go to, and my dad was there. So
That's
That
awesome.
was a high school. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. I want to give it a shout out to Father Mike Swanton in Columbus. I'm blessed, I think, to be with him shortly after his dad died. And the family had several Bibles that his dad had worn out. And it was so cool to see him, thumbing through this very clearly worn, highlighted Bible that he had just gotten from his dad. And you could see the legacy of faith.
Yeah. And I would say on my dad's deathbed, I remember him, which is 25 years ago, asking him, "Are you afraid of dying?" And he had cancer, and he said, "Son, I've been dying since I've been born, and now I get to go home." And I thought, wow, I want that on my deathbed.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wow, that's a great answer. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. You said now 5 kids.
5 kids.
Been in Omaha since
Born and raised in
forever.
Dundee. Yeah, moved to Iowa after we were married for about 4 years, a small town in Iowa, and moved back to Omaha.
All right. So you're the chancellor here at the Archdiocese. What does that mean?
It's different things in different dioceses. So here you're an advisor to the Archbishop. In my case, it would be media relations, canon law, the administration of the Curiate and Chancery, safe environment, external affairs, public affairs, community relations.
I mean, I just know when things go wrong, it's like, I don't know, talk to Deacon Tim. That's usually.
Gatekeeper. I mean, not gatekeeper, but kind of a catch-all for a lot of different things. So
you fix a lot of problems.
Yeah. Mr. Fix It.
Thanks for that. And also, I think fun new part of your job, you're coordinating the formation for deacons. Tell us a little bit about that.
Started in July as the director of the Office of Permanent Diaconate. So the formation of deacons and their wives who attend. So I'm enjoying that. Great 20 guys in formation. It's an opportunity. I'm trying to put a different look on it and a different message to it all. Getting these guys to think beyond the 4 walls of the parish, to think more missionary, that the mission field is so vast. So it drives me crazy when I hear deacons say to me, "I'm not that busy in my parish." That's an invitation. Well, look beyond your parish walls because you can be as busy as you want to be. So getting them to grasp and get the notion of getting near to those who are most suffering and to take the gospel where it's absent.
Yeah. That's a lot of job security.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be a great thing if they're like, I don't know what to do. Everybody in the neighborhood is evangelized. Right. Everybody knows Jesus. I just don't know. I'm out. It's like, great. Well, I get an export program going. Okay, so this is, I think, actually, in my mind, it's a natural transition here. I want to talk a little bit about the big goal. The Archbishop was on the podcast a couple episodes back, episode number 35. If you're listening and you haven't heard it yet, go back and listen to the Archbishop. He talked about this big goal that he announced in October, that every parish in the Archdiocese of Omaha would become a missional community in 6 years. Talk to us a little bit about the reasons behind the big goal. In your own words, I mean, we've had some conversations. It's been kind of like, conversations brewing here within the Chancery for months now. Talk a little bit about it just in your own words.
I'll address it through maybe an illustration that maybe you've heard, I think others have heard, but it goes back to my college days when I was an intern. I was working for a big organization that everybody in Omaha is going to recognize as Exarban. The Thoroughbred Racetrack, the sports arena, philanthropic group, major source of Midwest entertainment. So I was an intern in the PR office, and one of my functions was to track legislations in Iowa, which Iowa was at the time trying to pass parimutuel wagering. And so I kept a file.
What is parimutuel?
Parimutuel wagering basically means if you and I are at a racetrack, I'm betting against you.
Okay.
You and I set the odds, so you're my competitor, not really the house. And so that's what parimutuel wagering means. They were going to introduce or wanted to introduce greyhound racing, and so I tracked legislation, would brief the executive staff on legislation, and all the while during that time, that reality, the executive staff thought, well, it's not really a threat, because we have 100 and some years of success and we've dominated the market and we have grandeur and we have the best minds, and we get 30,000 people on a Saturday, and no one's going to be interested in little greyhounds that run around a circle in 30 seconds. So there was really kind of a flippancy, reluctant to change.
How long, you said 100, how long had Exarban been at it?
I think it's like about 100 years or so.
100 years, okay.
Yeah.
That's a while.
And so,
and maybe could you just tell for those of us who have not seen a live horse race, or even maybe watch more than 30 seconds, like talk a little bit about that grandeur and the experience of it and the cultural, because this was a really big deal. It
was one of the top racetracks in the country, and that means it outperformed racetracks in New York and California. And so again, on a Saturday there would be 30,000 people, and it would be all demographics. It is from Fortune 500 company CEOs to the husband and wife from Little Italy, wearing a fedora and chewing on a cigar, and everything in between. And so it was the place to be and the place to be seen. And but kids couldn't go in; were not admitted, so they skipped a generation. So an Exarban would dictate policy across the state. And public policy, it was a center of power, and so it was the place. But again, there was this notion of we don't have to change, and at the same time, this legislation is being introduced. Other things are happening in the world. This thing called the computer is developing in technology, and information is coming faster and in small chunks. And this other thing showed up called the USA Today, which used color graphics, which you did not have to jump to an inside page to read an article. They gave you information in short bits. The world is moving faster, and thoroughbred racing was a long game. It was 30 minutes between games, and there was a learning curve. And you had to absorb all this data. And along comes this little greyhound, and you have to absorb a little bit of data to make an informed decision. So to truly have the best chance at making the best bet, you had to spend the night before absorbing data.
Right.
Well, you could show up at a Greyhound racetrack that morning and decipher some things and make a bet. So it was coming along at a time when the world was changing. Exarban was not going to budge. They were not going to change. They feel they did not have to change. And they went from, in 1 year, I think one of the years I was there, they did about $175 million in wagering through 3 months.
Wow.
The Greyhound track comes along, and the next year they're at 50 million. And then it was soon 25 million, and it was soon 5 million.
And so more than half just disappeared.
Disappeared. And so they tried to adjust. They said, well, now we're going to try and be like them. We're going to shorten up the time between games. We're going to all types of betting options. But it was too late. So the world was changing, times were changing. They didn't think they had to change with it, that they would survive based on the same business model, and they ended up closing.
Now, I love this story, not just because I love imagining you around these guys with cigars and fedoras and the 20-year-old Deacon Tim McNeil getting teased as the intern. So admittedly, that is part of the reason I like this story. The imagery is really fun. But it's a parable too.
It is.
I mean, so let's just play Jesus and the disciples here. Master, what does this story mean?
Yeah, it means change or adjust or at your own peril. You cannot stand still. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't expect the world is going to bend to your will. And so that reluctant to respond to what was obvious and just to keep your feet into the ground with spikes on without moving was going to bring about one result. And it could have been an opportunity. And it was an opportunity lost. And it was a short window of time to adjust.
I mean, it sounded like you were saying there's almost like a 5-year window or a 6-year window.
It was they closed, I think it was, 7 or 8 years later. I'm trying to remember now. And I remember I went back to Exarban to work. And I remember walking the grandstand thinking, it's over. What did I come back to? The times have even more drastically changed. And who was I to think that I could come and still in the same business model to do a reversal? And it was just clear. Culture had changed. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about like the lessons. What are the lessons for us? I mean, we work for the church. We're the part of this big goal is a desire, in some ways, that our parishes would begin to recognize, well, the signs of the times that we're living in, and be able to kind of rediscover our missionary identity. Talk a little bit about like, gosh, the challenge to not like dig in our heels, the ability to recognize the signs of the times. I mean, you really literally walked through it experientially with an organization. What are the lessons for, those who are a part of our parishes, the church now, who are experiencing, like it or not, something similar?
So there are some really good comparisons with the Exarban illustration I use, and even the newspaper business. So when you would walk through the Exarban grandstand, it went from being 30,000 people to 3,000 people on a Monday, or 4,000 on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You walk now neighborhoods, and you don't see many newspapers in driveways.
For those who are too young, USA Today was a newspaper.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
It still is.
You go into our churches, and you see a lot of empty pews.
Yeah.
And so, and it's clear to us what the remedy to that is. And if we have individuals, and we do, who have this beautiful relationship and intimacy with the Lord, and still for some reason are not yet wanting to go out and share that, if we have parishes who aren't trying to facilitate that, and we see the signs of the times in front of us on Sundays, and the erosion of culture, and if we don't act, if we stand still, it's at our own peril. A couple of weeks ago, we had the gospel on the 2 great commandments. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul, and the second commandment, your neighbor as yourself. On the surface, that seems really, really, easy. I mean, Jesus said that's the foundation for everything. It's difficult, but not complicated. But why is it so difficult for us to live out those 2 commandments? And to me, I attribute that to because we've lost track of the big story, the kerygma, and unless there's the introduction of the kerygma over and over and over, and that becomes just so much of who we are, then I think it's going to be easier for us to live out the 2 great commandments. But that's just absent right now.
Yeah. Talk about that, because we've Jeff Cavins, myself, we've talked about the kerygma. What's the kerygma in your own words, not just the definition, right? But what is that core message, that story in your own words?
Well,
because I heard somebody was giving you props, Jen Mosier, I'm sorry, Jody Phillips. I mean, they're both wonderful, but I should quote the right person. Jody heard a homily that you gave at her parish, St. Bernard's, as a deacon, where you share the gospel. Yeah. So I think, what's the good news? What's the kerygma?
God created us out of love. He created us to be in union with him. He had this beautiful plan for us, and that is to be in union. That is to be vessels of receptivity. I just want to lavish you with my love, and I want to live in union with you, and I want you to be in union with me, and I want you to have that eternal life. The basic plan for us. We're sinners. Sin entered the world. That whole plan got disrupted. We participate in sin because he wants to lavish so much that love on us, because he pursues us every day from the moment we awake, wanting to infuse us with that love. And I'm not going to let you go that easily. I'm going to introduce my son. He's going to come into the world, and he's going to die the most horrific death that a person can die, in which they're going to throw him on the trash heap of humanity. But he's doing it for you, in pursuit of you, to bring you back into that plan of mine. And so what's your response to that? What's our response to that? Repent, believe in the good news. Some would say, be baptized, receive the Holy Spirit, abide in Christ, abide in the church, and go make disciples. And if internalizing that and proclaiming that does not make us get up in the morning and have hearts that just flow over. I don't know what will.
Mhm.
My first thought upon waking my eyes in the morning is, Lord, I'm going to live the first of the greatest commandments,
Mhm.
because I can't help it. And then I can't help but take that to someone else. And I can't help but then get as close to someone's misery as I can. And for sure, the risen Christ is me, is going to see the suffering Christ in someone else, and I'm going to tend to you. And if we don't embrace that and proclaim that, then it's at our own peril in different ways.
Yeah. So talk a little bit. I mean, you're a man of the church. I mean, Catholic all your life. I mean, my summary, not yours, but I can't remember a time when you didn't know Jesus and see, an inspiring example of deep faith lived around you. And you've been working for the institutional church for a while. Clearly, your faith is not in the institutional church per se, right? It's in this person, this relationship. Talk a little bit. I mean, neither of us, at least to my knowledge, have like doctorates or like experts in like the history. But why is it that experience often feels so rare within the institutional church? Because I mean, you're just talking about the fundamentals of Catholic faith, and yet those fundamentals seems like they've kind of gotten lost in the ages and kind of layers. What happened? How do we get it back?
With the basic proclamation, or for someone else to experience that person?
Well, I would say both. I think they're related. So
yeah,
I've seen. So, I've shared it on the podcast, but the super short version is, there were years that I had a business card that said missionary on it when I was still afraid to make the initial proclamation. And I had a second or third or fourth, if you will, conversion experience where I realized, like, my gosh, I have to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
I have to invite people to make a decision. And I was so blessed because of the formal teaching of the church, John Paul II in particular, and then good missionary friends that made me jealous. I started to begin to proclaim the gospel, and I saw fruit in my ministry, and I saw lives changed. That was huge for me. But yeah, talk a little bit like how do we get back and rediscover this? Because sometimes it seems like the culture that we have now as Catholics, particularly faithful Catholics, feels very far away from this culture of proclamation where lives are changed.
I mean, so as you know, we have so much treasure in the church, starting from the gospel to devotions, to rituals, to art, to architecture, books and media. I mean, and I think so much of I think we're overflowed with treasure, and maybe too much.
We get a lot of stuff
that we've gotten away from the pennies and the nickels and the dimes of the charisma. So I think, and maybe have chased so many other things and beautiful things. So I think we've taken ourselves away from what's most basic and what's most important, which shows up 8 times in the Acts of the Apostles, that charismatic proclamation, starting with Peter, right after Pentecost. So I think we just maybe unintentionally distracted ourselves and got away from what's basic and most important. I think the receiving end of that proclamation for people is so much, it's the idolatry in life. It's like in myself, in my 20s and post-college and the chase of the American dream, that was going to be my identity. Our own pains, our own hurts. We have a culture that's not favorable to it, but yet which then discourages us. And so I'm not going to get discouraged or be rejected by proclamation. And so it takes courage. But I think we have so many other gods in our life and so many other distractions, and that makes us not receptive to the message. And I think it discourages those who want to share the message.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't tell you how many times I've gathered with a group of church leaders, right? The infamous, like the basement, the church basement. Yeah. And the conversation if it's not on, I mean, I love your phrase, leaks, locks, and loans. If it's not kind of fixated on the details of kind of maintenance, then it often turns just to complaining. It's like, wow, the culture, and it seems like the hope or conviction that, like, no, Jesus is real and he's alive, and the message makes a difference. Our proclamation, our life, our witness makes a difference. It's almost like that's been totally forgotten. So what would you say to those? And a story, a conviction, preach a little bit if you want, but like, what would you say to those who almost despite themselves or unknowingly, they've kind of gotten discouraged and forgotten that the gospel still changes lives, that it still has power?
I would say reverence your limitations to people.
Ooh, okay, explain that.
So a lot of the discouragement might be in, I am the one who's going to bring about the conversion. It's going to be my eloquence. It's going to be my word choice. It's going to be my imagery. It's going to be me. It's to simply reverence your limitations. If you do not reverence your limitations, you're never going to wake up in the morning and say, Lord, I need you. Mm-hmm. And so just be faithful with that call of proclamation, and any movement, any conversion will be taken care of. And you don't have to worry about, you have to be that change agent. So I think it's to acknowledge, I'm just going to be faithful to the call, and what comes about, the Lord's already taken care of. Mm-hmm. To me, I think it's a privilege to be persecuted. I mean, I've been in a restaurant before with my wife where I was seen on TV standing up for marriage, traditional marriage, and someone used that as an opportunity to say, I saw you on TV, and my wife was right there. We were eating. It was a South Omaha restaurant, and this has happened a number of times. And my wife even saying to me, getting mad at me because you were smiling when that guy was yelling at you. And I remember I'm being persecuted. And if I have to stand before the Lord someday and say I've never been persecuted, I'm not going to stand before the Lord.
Right.
So I think just to courage and to be mm-hmm. brave and to go proclaim mm-hmm. the mighty deeds he's done in your life, but be privileged that you're going to get persecuted before it.
Yeah. I want to break that down because I've been listening. I hear at least 3 convictions in there. Number 1, there's this conviction that the Lord is well aware of our weaknesses and not in any way concerned about that limiting him, right, so long as we're willing to speak. Certainly a conviction that sometimes it's the persecution that is a kind of certificate of authenticity mm-hmm. for us, and a conviction that it's going to be rewarded in heaven, and to have a perspective that's bigger than this life.
Right. Yeah. So if you can imagine, our parishes who commit to this culture of generosity, mm-hmm. Who facilitate it as best as they can, and are able to help with the Holy Spirit for this encounter with the Lord, who then is going to, inspire someone to, I know this person has changed my life. I've received his mercy. I can only now be merciful myself. Mm-hmm. I can only go out and I can seek those on the roadsides and the byways who need the balm of Christ.
Yeah.
All that being tied to evangelization. All right. That just be one seamless way of being, again, as I say, as we wake up in the morning and go about our day. And sure, what comes about it is I have to make another response. It's going to be, I'm going to be a disciple. I am going to be that balm. The risen Christ mm-hmm. in me is going to tend to the suffering Christ in other. And I'm going to give him my treasure because I have to. I have to give back.
I mean, the way you talk about this, not that there's not an intentionality or some degree of choice or awareness, but it's almost it's just this reflexive response for those who've encountered the Lord, who are aware of their weakness, they've experienced his mercy. It's just kind of a reflex. How could I not tell someone?
Right. It's a reflex. So I would compare it to Paul. Jesus stood alongside Paul on the road to Damascus,
Mm.
and Jesus consumed Paul. He entered so fully into Paul. Paul ceased being Paul.
Mm.
So it just becomes a way of living. It is the risen Christ in us living us. So he stands alongside and just overtakes us.
Yeah.
And we don't know who we are anymore.
I love it. Right? I mean, that's what Paul says. All right. And it's no longer I who live,
Right.
but Christ lives in me. Talk a little bit. You dropped just back there a little bit. You dropped like culture of generosity. That's one of the key characteristics that we've pinpointed that we believe are going to be levers, that if a parish can cultivate a culture of generosity, that there's something about that generosity. Yes, financial stewardship, but in the most broad sense, a living of mercy, that there's something about that culture that's going to be a lever to help bring about a missional community. You've seen how, this kind of seamless link between the living of mercy and culture of generosity and evangelization and mission. Talk a little bit more about that, how those two kind of go together. And the reason I ask is I think oftentimes there's this kind of false dichotomy. You've got people over here is like, well, we do mercy and we love poor people, and like, no, we love the church and we love evangelization and catechesis. And how in the life of a Christian, in the life of Jesus, those are just all, in the life of Paul, they're all one. How do you bring those together? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, so I think the starting point and the root of it all would be prayer. So I think so the person who is going to evangelize, as you know, obviously he is, I would compare it to, again, my own background. That person's a publicist. He is going and he is promoting and he's publicizing this person he knows so intimately and deeply.
We're all in marketing.
Exactly. Right. And so if to go back, if he's so much, if he's overtaking us, and we have that mind and the heart, it is a seamless way of living. We are going to proclaim him.
Mm-hmm.
We can only be merciful. We can only share, who he is. We can only live that life. We can only imitate him. So I don't think you can turn off, like you're saying, compartmentalize. I think I will simply proclaim today, but I'll keep to the side and I'll save till tomorrow, entering into someone's misery. Or the corporate works of mercy. It's just you're a new person. Once you've encountered him, you become that person who didn't separate his own life. And so just a seamless. We put on new clothes.
Talk about, if we can, let's go just a little deeper into that moment of prayer. We're really close to Thanksgiving. That celebration is on everybody's mind. Kind of like the heart of, in many ways, I think what you're saying was the heart of the heart of evangelization is this personal gratitude for, right, the Lord has saved me, and letting that reality consume us, fill us, be present and top of mind. We can't help but express it. Just give a little quick tutorial in prayer here. How does someone, again, thinking Thanksgiving here, how do you remember what the Lord has done for you so that proclamation just springs forward?
I guess to your first question about what is prayer, again, maybe I'll use an illustration again. So last night or yesterday, I had a long day. I got home around 8:00 last night. I walk into my house. My wife is in the sunroom. She's got the TV on. She's playing a game on her computer, I think. I look at her. I say, "Hi, honey. How are you?" She says, "Fine." She looks at me. "How are you?" I say, "Fine." There wasn't any rainbows and leprechauns. She didn't do backflips when I came in the house. I know you're surprised.
Yeah, but normally she
right.
does.
No confetti.
Just to be clear.
Right. So I acknowledge her. She acknowledges me. There was a mutuality. We know we are in a relationship. And that's prayer. So first, so prayer is a relationship, and we often think it's rainbows and leprechauns, and it's feelings and it's emotion. And I would tell people, isn't it enough just to stand before the Father in prayer And that's all the emotion and rainbows and leprechauns and unicorns that you would need. And so it's a relationship, and a relationship is developed because you have to spend time with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that deep prayer life, obviously you're going to have that deep prayer life knowing this person I'm in love with and who's in love with me, he wants my good.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what that good is. I got this lifelong experiences of these constant goods that he lavishes upon me. I don't think it's an effort of imagination for us. It should not be to recall all the mighty deeds he's done in our life. And they don't have to be earth-shattering things. The fact that I'm allowed to take a breath, the fact that I'm allowed, that I know he's so aware of me in prayer, that I can sit there and just receive and be gazed upon.
Yeah. Well, and an acknowledgement,
right?
Too. I'm drawn. Our family, as we get close here, end of the liturgical year, getting ready for the start of the liturgical year in Advent. We always do this little thing in Advent, where we'll kind of like assign names, which is hilarious. I have 6 children at home, so there's the baby doesn't take names, but whereas we like assign names, it's hilarious. I mean, I can almost see the guardian angels rigging the hat full of names, making sure the 2 siblings that hate each other draw each other for little for Advent angels, little acts of kindness, and that little devotional Advent thing has been so meaningful. Yeah. Not only is it good for our family, but it is teaching me how to recognize the Lord's loving me. Because usually what that manifests is just simply it's like I'm just going to go bring my wife a cup of coffee in the morning first, and I'm going to put ungodly amounts of cream in it, just like the way she just the way she likes it. Sorry, honey. Or just I'm going to do one of my kids, if I draw them, I'm going to draw their chores, and to begin to notice Jesus doing some of my chores for me. He's never gotten me a cup of coffee, but actually through teammates. But noticing the way, like the simple ways the Lord loves me, not that God bless those who have the Teresa of Avila moments, but
right.
Yeah.
I like to shock some of my directees as a spiritual director. And I'm not one.
Was that a metaphor?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wow, this is a new.
So I'm not one to hand out assignments. So I would be a non-directive directee, but one assignment I consistently would hand out is those who have a devotion to the Blessed Sacrament or exposition would be. So the next time you go, just give Jesus permission and give yourself permission. Let him adore you for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or for an entire hour. Just let him adore you. You don't have to adore him. He doesn't really need us to adore him, but he has this craving and this thirst to adore you. Then just let him. And the response I get was, "Well, I can't. That's unseemly. I can't do that." Like, why? Let him.
Yeah. We don't believe we're lovable.
And that's and they can only walk away with gratitude.
Yeah.
The hearts that swell that we then have to give away.
That's great. I feel like that's also giving me permission to fall asleep in adoration too, because that's the only time my children, especially the teens, will let me look at them. If they're asleep and they don't know that I'm looking at them. Gosh, that's deep stuff. I love that. That's really good. What, as we get kind of ready, as we kind of close here, any kind of closing, remarks, insights. I think we've gone all over the place. We've talked a little bit about big goal, a little bit about culture, generosity, poverty. I think sometimes there's a mistaken notion of spiritual and material poverty, but just kind of closing thoughts for us, things you want to share or encouragement for those who are listening?
Yeah, I think for anybody who's listening, I think in particular, our parishes, we're given this opportunity every day when we wake up in the morning is to take the time to get to know this person who thirsts for us, share that with others, and it is an opportunity, and at a moment in our history when the Lord is begging us and beckoning us to receive him, to share him, to be disciples, and to go out. Because it's, I talked earlier about we have empty pews. That's not going to change unless we participate and unless we're faithful to the call. So we can sit still and hope something changes on its own. But it's not. And this beautiful invitation of I'm inviting you to participate in my work of salvation. So how many times have you heard, and I have heard, someone's trying to figure out, what's my call in life? What do I want to do in life? What's the Lord calling me to do? Well, with certainty, he's given you this. You get to participate in my work of salvation. What more do we want? And not to take advantage of that.
It's tragic.
Yeah. It's tragic. So if we want to have missional parishes, that will happen. It will happen. But it takes time. It takes effort. It takes commitment. It takes prayer. And it takes us being small, being poor.
That's good. I feel like I'm kind of going to go back because I want to give you a chance just to talk a little bit about how that has manifest in your own life. And particularly, you have two offices. Your really nice office here, beautiful historic desk. It was what, Bishop Ryan's desk? No,
Bergen's.
Bishop
Bergen's,
Bergen's desk. Beautiful desk. Nice office here in the Chancery. But you also have an office in North Omaha. Talk a little bit about how you personally kind of live out this, the littleness, the call to find Christ in the poor.
So I have an auxiliary office on 24th Street. It is right in the thick of the world.
24th Street.
North 24th Street. It's right outside that office is where multiple shootings have been occurring on weekends. It's deep pockets of poverty. It's deep abandonment and rejection. And it's we often think it's a place that needs, and it does, but increased income, more affordable housing. There's transportation needs. None of that is going to take the place or bring about the healing of abandonment and rejection that's down there. So I this doesn't make me saintly. I like the grit of a city. I like being street side. So I'm not in my office a whole lot down there. I will walk the streets a lot of time.
Nice.
I do a lot of my diaconate work down there. But you just encounter, the Lord just presents people to you.
Can you tell the story of the woman at the park?
Oh yeah. So one beautiful Sunday fall morning, I think it's Freedom Park. No, it's not Freedom Park. The concrete little park on 24th Street. The name now escapes me, but I was after Mass. I was down there. I was praying with the day's gospel. I think I was praying the Seven Sorrows Chaplet, just praying for the community. And a woman presents herself, and she looked like she was in her 60s. She was black. She looked at me. I acknowledged her. She acknowledged me. That led to start off with a conversation. It was small talk that quickly turned to big talk because it was in the throes of the riots in the city. And she was talking about racism and injustice and the president and politicians. And she was going on and on. You can tell just deep pain in her heart, but deep concern. And she abruptly stopped and she said, well, you're being quiet. You have nothing to say. And I said, her name was Sharon. I said, well, Sharon, you have a lot to say. I'm just listening. She said, good, I do have a lot to say. So she went on and she kept going on and on and on about
she could host a podcast.
That's right. The problems in the world were real. And then finally she abruptly stops again. And she says, do you know what the answer is? I said, what's the answer, Sharon? And she said, the answer is Jesus. And we have to love one another. And I said, well, Sharon, that's really, really simplistic. And her eyes got real big. I said, but you nailed it. you're right. That's what we need. We need Jesus, and we need to love one another. And so I said, you're a Christian woman. I can tell you know the story of Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus. She said, I do. I said, okay, what do you want Jesus to do for you? And she said, I want Jesus to put love in man's heart. And I said, well, that's beautiful. That's unselfish. What do you want him to do for you specifically? And she said, I want love in my heart. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, then let's pray for that. So I prayed out loud, and she was shouting hallelujah, and she was hooting and hollering, and she even started singing. And then I started to hug her. She told me, don't hug me. If you give me COVID, I'm going to sue you. We went our separate ways to our different benches. I saw her a couple days later, and she was in the park again. I pulled over. I said, hello. She looked at me. She pointed at me. She said, the Lord answered my prayer. Keep it simple. And he answered her second prayer. I mean, it starts with us. Her heart was changed. It softened.
Yeah.
Because she had a lot of hostility and animosity. And we had I got out of the car. We had a little conversation, and she was a dramatically different, softer person.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those, so I'll have people come in off the street and just, I think she maybe told some people who I've had a chance just to pray with. Mm-hmm. And there's prayer walks often down there where the homicide sites are. So I've invited deacons to come down there and pray some of those some of those outdoor prayer walks. And it's a place of despair. It's a place where the gospel still has to be really proclaimed, but the Lord isn't absent.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. I think my favorite part of that story is, what do you want Jesus to do? I want Jesus to heal everybody. Yeah. Put love in everyone. No. What do you want Jesus to do for you?
Right.
So that's beautiful. And it worked.
It did. She was open.
Yeah.
She knew Jesus. I didn't.
Yeah. But knowing Jesus, but I mean, it's a really telling story. And to me, part of what has captured my imagination from the very beginning about the vision and priorities, one church, encountering Jesus, equipping disciples, living mercy, is that word encountering. There's a difference between knowing that Jesus is the answer and letting him in and letting him fill your heart with love. That's good. That's good work to ask that question and to just invite him in.
Yeah. Because he's so interested in every detail of our day, and we just have to invite him in.
That's fantastic. I am so glad. I was just about to close, and I'm so glad I asked that question, and we got to go there. Thank you for sharing the story. Yep. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for everything you do for the Archdiocese here. If you have a problem, it has to be a really big problem for Deacon Tim to solve it. But if you have a really big problem, Deacon Tim's, if you want love in everyone's hearts, or maybe in your own, he's here at the Chancery. Just in closing, I want to provide a little, advertisement here, announcing the big goal. One of the things that we did is we are working here at the Chancery to be of service for pastors and parish leaders. We talked about one of the characteristics, culture of generosity, one of the characteristics of missional communities. One of the other characteristics, collaborative leadership. We're having a webinar on that. In fact, 2 webinars on that. December 1st, from 7 to 9 p.m., we're having a webinar on collaborative leadership. And December 3rd, from 10 a.m. to noon. You can find both of them, registrations at the website, equip.archomaha.org. Just go to the events tab. Again, that's equip.archomaha.org. You can go to the events tab and you can register for one. You can come to both of them if you want, but it's going to be the same thing. So register for one of those. If you're interested, bring somebody with you. Again, equip.archomaha.org, the events tab. You can also subscribe to the blog there if you like. And if you're looking for the Equipcast itself, you can find us on all the major platforms. Thank you, and God bless. We're grateful for you all.